Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Sisters of Legacy. We are them and they are us. We're going to run our intro and we'll be right back. Hello, and we're back. I know I'm having difficulties with my hair. Y'all bear with me. So ladies, welcome this week. We were off last week with all our various activities going on. And so we are back this week. We have wonderful Katrina Taylor.
Good evening.
We're her two graduates, one from college and one from high school this year.
Nice.
Way to go. Mama working hard.
Yeah.
And then we have the wonderful Shanetta McNair.
Hey.
Shanetta has all hers graduated. They all,
Yeah.
and she has currently two college students. And I think your nest is a little full for the summer, right, Shanetta?
Yeah, they're here for the summer. They here.
Y'all hear the excitement in her voice. Hey, Lisa, good evening. Thanks for sharing. So ladies, all right. So I'm gonna give everybody a little bit of background just in case where I saw this, somebody might see it, and I don't want people to be in their feelings. So I was watching a friend was doing this was like a webinar they were doing with some other ladies. And to be honest, I'm not sure of what the beginning topic was. I just know they were talking, and the question came up, which was something close to this. I don't know the exact words, but it was how has your upbringing, it was supposed to be like your upbringing or your training helped, or maybe not how, I don't know. That's not quite what I had in mind. So the appropriate question should be, has your upbringing or your training helped, hurt, or healed you? That was the question that they posed to their particular group. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's a really deep question when you think about it, like where you are today at whatever your age may be, to think back to your upbringing or the training you received, and just kind of think how that's impacted your life in those three areas. When we talk about training, that particular group was a group of believers. So they were talking about the training they received in church. I would say this would still work with whatever kind of believer you are. Maybe it's not, maybe you don't believe in church, maybe you have a different religion, but whatever that religion is, that training, you could still apply the same question. And why? Why do we want to ask this question? Well, I felt like this was an important question to ask because sometimes we go along with the business of living our lives that we don't really always think about how we got to where we are, or why we think the way we do, or why we respond to things the way we do. And so I thought this question was a great opening to kind of dig into that, like why we are the way we are today, or why we think the way we think today. So that's just a little background on where the question came from, why I thought it was important. I always try to do self inspection. I have to check myself a lot. And I think for me, it's definitely important that I check myself so that way I don't put that burden on anybody else, to be forced to have to try to check me and all that that entails. So I try to limit that and, always self check, try to be aware of who I am and how I am. So yeah, ladies, I thought this was a great something to talk about. Hopefully, you ladies will feel the same way. So I'm not going to put that question back up because it wasn't quite worded the way that I intended. But it's, how has your training or upbringing helped, hurt, or healed you? And it could be one of those things where it's none of the above.
Gotcha.
So somebody want to jump in first?
Oh, I'll start. I think that the most important thing that my parents gave me, but I'll say that, was a foundation in the Word of God, bar none. Bottom line, that was the most important thing in my life. They taught me how to pray. Um, they taught me, like, they gave me the faith that I needed and a solid foundation in the Word of God. Um, and that's framed my entire life,
Okay.
framed everything. Even when I was going astray, I still had the foundation, and I had, throughout my life, all the things I've been through, I've had that anchor, that thing to fall back on, that knowledge, that, and no matter what, at the end of the day, as they say, at the end of the day, I have something invaluable that they instilled in me, that, I want, I have the desire to have my life line up with the Word of God. And that's, to me, is invaluable, and it's shaped everything for me, even as a parent, and in everything in my whole life. So I think that is the most invaluable thing, and I can't thank them enough for that. Now, there's some other thing I can talk about, but that's the most important, most invaluable thing that my parents have given me.
Okay.
Nice. I love that. When I think about my upbringing, I think I can kind of go into several or all of the kind of categories of what about my upbringing was helpful, what about my upbringing was hurtful, and what about my upbringing has helped with any healing processes that I've needed throughout my life. Um, but I think about just the place that I'm in now when I reflect back on, and I was just talking about this probably about a week ago with my parents. Um, I think back on just the way things were and the way my parents did all the things that they did. Um, and the conclusions that I've come to is that they did the best they could with what they had. And for that, I'm grateful. For that, I'm appreciative. It wasn't always perfect. It wasn't always the way that I, as a parent, think things should have been done when I was a child. But it was what they had. It was what they had access to. It was what they knew. As far as like coming up in the church and that aspect of life, for me, that wasn't really the day-to-day reality. I do think my parents would feel like that's what it was, but it wasn't. um, we were a part of a church. We attended that church for a while, and then there was a long while where we did not attend church. So it was kind of like that in and out relationship. So that's a part of the foundation. I think that I knew that we believed in God. I knew that we were Christians. And I knew what we were not. And there were other things where it's just like, okay, no. So we may not have been the every Sunday, Christians. And then there was a time frame in life where we were those people that went every Sunday. We went to the Bible studies. We went, to the other things. But like I listen to people tell stories about how, oh, I grew up and we would go to church 5 days a week, and I would do my homework on the back bench at a church, row, and we would have revivals and we would do this. I had never even really heard of a revival until, and I'm almost ashamed to admit this, until I was probably late in my teens. And I was like, a what? You doing a what? I remember like, what's that? I remember I had these friends one time and they were like, oh, you should come to church with us Sunday. And I begged my parents and I went to church with them, and I came home and I was just like, I don't really know what I just went to, but it was different. Come to find out later in life, after I recalculated those thoughts, it was a holiness church. And I had no idea what was happening because I was growing up Baptist and I didn't really know what was going on in their church. And then look at me now, Kojic church member. But back then I was just like, I don't know what just happened. I don't know what I just saw, but it was not church as I know church. So my upbringing, I definitely think has, kind of like those ebbs and flows. It has some very wonderful memories, and then it has some things that is just kind of like, ooh, if that could have been different, maybe this would have been different, or maybe, some other things would have been different. So I definitely think that I could drop something in each of the buckets of helped, hurt, and healed, as far as like what my upbringing did for me. But I'm grateful for it because it made me who I am today. So even the parts that hurt made me who I am, because there were so many lessons and so many things to learn from it, that if I didn't have those experiences, there may be things that I may be naive to, things that I may not be aware of, things that I may not see that I can see now. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I mean, things that I can see even with raising my own kids. And it was like, if this hadn't happened to me, then I wouldn't have been able to see and say, come here. That's not what we're doing. That's not how this goes. My kids probably would have got away with some real crazy stuff, had I not, had the upbringing that I had. So, because I would have probably been walking around, in my little, as I had a person tell me one time, in my little utopia, unaware of anything that's going on. And literally somebody said that to me one time, that, you live in a utopia, you're unaware of things that are really going on around you. And I'm like, oh, baby, only if you knew the half of it, but I'm gonna let you have that today. But you don't know the half of what I see, observe, and know, but I'm gonna let you have it. But I think that, I could definitely drop something in every bucket of these categories with how I was brought up. And we can get more into it as we keep going.
Right.
I would say I definitely agree with you. I could definitely put a little bit, probably a lot of bits in every bucket, um, on both sides. The from the training of the church to the upbringing at home. I definitely could probably fill a few buckets, with experiences. And I hear you, and I think I said it before too. Like, yeah, all my experiences made me who I am. And don't get me wrong, I like me. I like me the way I am. I don't even care if you don't like me, because I like me, right? But then sometimes I be like, yeah, but some of that wasn't really that necessary. Like,
Right.
like I really be thinking, like, I get it. It made me who I am today. And
Yeah.
sometimes I be thinking, if that mean I had to be somebody else today, I think I could have left some of that stuff out. Like, if they let me go back and pick out, okay, let's just do away with this whole year. That whole year just look like it never happened. But I'm sure we all have, those moments where we look back and be like, you know what? I wish I could have just foregone that whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I get it, because I definitely have those moments. So I'm gonna tell y'all. So like, I'll say like the church when it says, "How's it hurt?" So when I was younger, like coming up in elementary school, I was always the shortest kid. Like in elementary school, always at the front of the line. Remember they used to put you in that one line,
They did.
and I was always the first kid because I was always the shortest. So I fought a lot in elementary school. I fought so much that I liked it. I liked it. I fought, in my house. they fought. We just was a fighting bunch of fools, basically. Um, and so when we started going to church, in the beginning, to Katrina's dad's church with her family, I was like, you go in, everybody's like, oh, come in, and people was just like too friendly. So you go in and you like, what they want, like we don't want nothing. And so I remember Lisa, who I'm always talking about, Trina's sister. She was over the youth, and she used to be like, "You always look so upset," and she used to, do this, Trina. You know how she trying to get you to smile, and I was just like a little mean, angry girl. I like, don't be touching me, lady. It took a while, and she used to be like, you don't have to fight. So then you get saved and you hear, you don't have to fight. Let the Lord fight your battles. So I get saved right around 6th grade, and I take my little saved self to elementary school, where I've been fighting and cutting a monkey for all these years. And now I done found Jesus, and now I don't want to fight. But nobody cared that I didn't want to fight. Nobody found Jesus when I found him, because they still wanted to fight. And I remember I have I have a younger brother. So I'm, walking home from school with my brother. And this girl, she wanted to fight. And she just, come on. I'm like, telling him, he ready. Because he's like, oh, yeah, my sister, I put on a show every time. I'm ready. And I'm like, no, we're not going to fight. He's like, you're not going to fight? No, we can go home. So I'm trying my best. I'm not going to fight. And I mean, I went to this, a week is only 5 days school time. But like, when you trying not to fight somebody, that week felt like an eternity. And so every day my brother's like, the kids are just saying mean stuff, and they push you from behind and they want to fight. And I was so determined to like not fight, because in my mind at this time, if I fight, I'm going to hell. Like, now nobody had told me that, but this is my little 11-year-old understanding of what being saved is. Like, you ain't supposed to, fight. You're not supposed to fight or whatever. I mean, I tried, and I tried so hard. And then, like, the last day that I remember trying not to fight, same girl, now she felt like she was, tough Tony, because you've been running all week, or, whatever it is. And I'm steady walking. So today, instead of hitting me, now she hits my brother.
Now I gotta fight you.
There you have it. Right. Long story short, that is exactly how that ended. Because now, yeah, I can't. Are you crazy? Like, and I remember like going home, like, oh my God, like, what was do? I'm going to hell. You got all these thoughts in your head, because again, being 11, I really didn't understand it in a way that it made sense. Like, I really thought back then, God was like genie. You just pray and everything's gonna be all right. You pray, tell them you don't want to fight, and then there's gonna be no more fights. Like, that's it. They didn't prepare me for the fact that I was gonna be the only one praying.
Like, what happened? We all got saved.
Right. I thought me getting saved meant all the other kids at the school was gonna be saved too. And it's funny, like, we sit here and laugh, but I think about how many times though have we really walked into a building and felt that way. Like, all these people, they saved and they got the Holy Ghost. Like, I got them. I'm straight.
Yeah.
You walk in and you have these lofty goals that everything's gonna be all right. We all saved.
Yeah.
We all know Jesus up in here. You think that there's not going to be any hiccups. There's not going to be any differences. We all running on trying to see what the end is going to be. You got all that stuff that that goes on in your head, not even according to your training, but this is just stuff, that goes on in your head. And sometimes I think about that, like when we think about the church, it's not even so much the training, it's our, I guess, our interpretation,
Yeah.
of what it is. And, we walk away feeling like I was hurt by this, because I felt like the church had set me up for failure. Y'all set me up. Like I'm supposed to not fight. So I'm just supposed to get beat up all the time? Even though it's my misunderstanding, it's my misinterpretation. But, like I felt like I was hurt by the church because of my lack of understanding. And I think sometimes that happens to us all. Like we get hurt in a scenario or based on our understanding of something, and we blame the thing. This hurt me or that hurt me. And that's not always the case.
Yeah. I would definitely I think that's the root of all church hurt is there's an interpretation and an understanding that I have, an expectation that I have. And when that expectation has been failed, it has not been met. I am now hurt. My feelings are hurt. I'm just hurt. And because that expectation, whether it was an expectation that really should have been filled, or whether it was an expectation that we glamorized in our minds,
right.
Whichever way it was, we walk away with that, and that's what we then identify with as church hurt. I heard somebody say the church hurt isn't real, and I so disagree with that. It's real because it's what you feel. It's not. It's a hurt feeling. And it's just a feeling that you happen to get at church. So that's kind of what I identify it as for me. Say what you're gonna say. I want to hear what you're gonna say about it.
I guess but my biggest reservation about that, right, is that, well, one, people they get church hurt, right? So now they don't believe in God no more. Like the church is a building.
Right.
You didn't get church hurt. You got hurt by the nasty evangelist that was in the building. Like my only thing is like the same way when you go to work and somebody get on your nerves, you don't walk away and say, oh, I got Walmart hurt. But, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever your job is. Like you don't blame the whole job for what's happened to you. But when something happens to you at church, between you and another person, now you have church hurt. I have a whole traumatic experience with the whole church because of a bad interaction. So I don't know about if it's real. I just feel like, to me, it's another one of those
from it.
Huh?
The excuse that people make from it.
I don't know about
this
excuse.
Is why I didn't go.
It's just another one of those label type things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that it's not real. It's your reaction to it. I mean, if you have a clear understanding that these are people, and yeah, you can be hurt in this organization. But what does that have to do with your relationship with God? And I want to be clear, when I spoke first, I didn't say anything about the church. I said my parents gave me faith, prayer, and a foundation in the Word of God. And if we want to talk about the church, organization, I got some other things to say on that.
Right,
it's a whole different. Being a PK, I can give a whole. But at the end of the day, I can separate that out. I can separate it out completely and say, because I've seen some things, I've experienced some things in the church. But at the end of the day,
kind of maturity too, Trina, is that being mature enough to say that while this happened there, I can separate those feelings and I can say, like, I saw that this happened to me there, but it's not drawing me away from my relationship with God. It's drawing me away from those people. It's drawing me away from relationships and connections with them, but not my relationship with God. I think that's the
Absolutely.
true sign of
Absolutely.
complete maturity when you've experienced those things in your background that have hurt you, whether it's church
Right.
or otherwise.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just yeah. So I'm not gonna say it's not real, because then people be all up in arms. Not that I care about that either, but I just feel like there there's nowhere you're gonna go where you could possibly not be offended. Like I remember when I was pregnant, my sister, she was really young. Well, she was like a teenager at the time. I don't know. I guess maybe she had heard the word and she thought it was gonna be funny. She was like, "Oh, your baby's gonna be a hermaphrodite." You know what that is,
Yes.
right? Tell you talk about somebody. My feelings was so hurt. I think it was the pregnancy brain, cause I mean, like I was, like it hurt my feelings so bad. And she was my sister. Like she meant it, thinking it was gonna be funny. I
Right.
guess. Of course, I missed the joke because it came across totally different to me. But I don't. There's nowhere that you're gonna go that there's not a possibility of an offense. I mean,
Mhm.
even the Bible say offenses come. Like so, it's going to happen. And I feel like sometimes it even happens in church because we're all just people. We're all supposed to be there for the same purpose. And so, like, if I had a bad day and you had a bad day, and now we both come into this building with our bad days, there's a possibility that our bad days might not intermingle too well today.
Right.
Like we're all human. So yeah, I don't know about the validity of it. I guess people can argue that up and down, but I just feel like the last thing we need is another label. Like we just another label. Like how many labels do you need splattered across your forehead? Like I just that's kind of how I feel. It's just
Well, the
it's
next time
another.
somebody hurt my feelings at work, I'm gonna come tell y'all I am work hurt today.
Yeah, good. That's what I need to hear. And then I want you to tell me how you never going to work again.
Right. I quit. I'm not going. But people do quit jobs because they get their little feelings hurt. People, I've seen that happen, and I'm like, so you quit your whole job
Right. I mean,
because your
people may
feelings got
quit
hurt.
and they go find another job. People don't get hurt in one job and just I'm never
Right.
gonna work again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But the church, when it comes to the church, we done set the bar real high. Like really, really,
The
really
church is the exceptional class of people, so we got to hold them to a higher standard. When they
high.
hurt our feelings, we can't. We don't know what to do anymore. It just drive us to a place where it's really, really hard for us to move past it. And I think that happens because there's an expectation. That was one of the things that I said earlier, is that the expectation of a certain thing, and when that does not happen, I think that creates an emotion that's really hard a lot of times to definitely address. Now, do I think it should drive you completely out of church to the point where, like, I don't believe in God? I don't do, like, I've heard people talk like that, and it's like, I think that's too far. Like, that's too much. Um, but I've seen people do that. For me, my choices of not serving God when I didn't, it was because I was making a choice, not because of what somebody in or out of the church did. It was because I was making a choice. And I've seen a lot. Probably a lot more than, like, those things helped, hurt, or healed. I've seen some things that when you said, can we delete that whole year? I've seen some things with church and I'm like, can we delete all of that?
Right.
Did we have to know? We didn't have to know that. We didn't have to see that, experience that. But you have, and when you begin to truly connect with ministry and with church, you do see some things that you wish could be unseen.
Right. So just like we've had bad experiences. I can say that a lot of the training that I got in church, and I don't even know if it was so much training. Well, yeah, there's always lessons behind what she
Mhm.
say. Has healed me too, because the same way, first meeting Lisa got me beat up a little bit. By the time, it was all the way over. She healed my heart in a lot of ways. Like I said, I was an angry kid. Like
Mhm.
fighting was just what I did. Like I was angry. And I know people are like, well, you're still angry. Whatever. Uh like she taught me how to be softer, how to allow people in, how to trust people. So I did also receive a lot of healing, just an understanding of who I was. Some of the training helped me to understand how God love really works, like not just, oh, you just pray because God's gonna make it all better. That understanding of how God's love really works was really healing for me, as a child, going into my teenage years. And there's so many times, honestly, even in my 40s, like sometimes I just call her like, okay, oh wise one, I need your ear. And I just go, and she's like, well, Sam, and she got a scripture up her sleeve, in her pocket. She got, she got some kind words. She put a little Jesus on it, throw some love on it, and it's always healing. And so, like, I feel like there's two sides to the coin, because
Mhm.
just like you can, for some people, they're like, I've never been hurt like I was hurt in church. And fine, that may be true. That's an experience. But I can say the love I received, outside of, like, my husband, has been extremely healing, starting with her, and then even becoming an adult, and some of the other places that I've been, and some of the other relationships um that I've had and fostered, has been really healing for me over the years in lots of ways. So I can say that the same way, I say it's like two sides of the same coin.
Mhm. I would agree with that too.
I believe that two things particularly that my parents did that helped me. Um, it's kind of my parents always showed up to everything. They showed up. If I had a little poetry reading down at the school, here they come. If I had the little things here, they was there. And I mean, it was good. It was very good. At the time, I was just like, well, okay, here they are. Here come my father walking in with his clergy shirt. I was like, did you have to wear the clergy collar
Right.
down to the schoolhouse? But I didn't realize how many people or how many kids didn't have that type of support
Right.
Yeah.
until later. And I was like, and I didn't realize how important it was until later on. But I'm glad I had that support from my parents, and they always showed up. And so for me, it made me that type of person. Like whatever you doing, whether you just gonna come and walk across and they gonna say your name, or whether you gonna be the little tree in the back. My baby is the tree.
Not the
I mean,
tree.
at the school. I got to go down to the school. My baby being the tree today. I mean, it's just it was something that they put in me, and I wanted to give my kids the same thing. Always support them. Always be there for them. And the second thing I thought was so important is that it was three of us, three girls, and my father always told us that we had to. He made education so important because he always and my mom as well. It was they made it important to us because they were like, "You're young ladies, and we don't want you to have to depend on anybody.
Right.
You on a man because you don't know. So you need to be able to take care of yourself. You need to be able to take care of yourself.
Right.
And I know we have these other narratives about, at this point where, okay, we're not gonna go down that road, but these other narratives at this point, but it's so important to be able to take care of yourself.
Right.
And I know that there's not a place to say I don't need a man or whatever, but there's times in life where you might have to step up. And it turned out that I had to do it by myself, and my sister had to do it by herself. So I think that these are things that helped, training, upbringing, things that were placed into us, things that were made a priority for us, and we grasped and held on to those things. And it helps you if get in there and make it a priority for yourself as well. And I really thank God for my parents giving us those things and prioritizing those things, not just church, because believe me, church was the priority as well. And I was that kid that was at revival and all of that all the time, all church all the time. And I will say that I think that there should have been more of a church regular life balance.
Right.
In my upbringing. I think I wanted that. I don't know how if it hurt me at all, but I know that I think there should have been more of a balance with other things. But I can't really say that it hurt me in any way. But I did want more of a balance as far as not being at church all the time.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I could say my mom, for the most part of my life, she was a single parent, for most of my life. My dad died when I was 6. So my mom, went on with her life and she had us, whatever. So I watched my mom. One of the things I could say definitely that I got from her upbringing, I used to think my mom was super strong. I watched her deal with stuff. I watched her go through stuff, and she never, I could say it, no matter what happened, I can't remember a time where I had to try to peel her out of bed because, Mom, I know it's bad, but you got to get up. I need you. I can say I never saw those moments. I'm sure she had those moments because as a mother, sometimes I have those moments and I have a husband. So I know, she didn't have that support system. Her parents died. By the time I was 10, 11, both her parents were gone. So, she's the oldest of her brothers and sisters. So she was really on her own and wound up with 5 kids. Not wound up, but by the time it was over, 5 kids. And she mostly did it on her own. And she did it. I didn't see those weak moments. Although as an adult now, I'm sure she had them. But I always seen her, she kept going. No matter what was happening, she kept going. And I can say that is one of the things, that is one of the training that I got from her, that training, no matter what's happening, you got to keep going. Even, if your husband ain't whatever, if the man's not, you got to keep going. Like you said, Trina, you have to be able to take care of yourself. And for her, it was I have to be able to take care of you guys. I have to make sure, that you guys are good. I got to do what I need to do for you guys. And I got that. I definitely learned that lesson from my mom. And I'll say over the years, that has helped me a lot. When you have those weak moments, I was like, girl, you only got 2. She did it with 5. I've been telling myself, get it together, snap out of it, whatever. Because I'm like, you got to keep going. So that helps me a lot. But I'll say, and in some ways, though, for a while, it kind of hurt me too, because on the flip side of that, I was super strong. Like, in my mind, like sometimes I wasn't slowing down long enough for my husband to drive the train. Like I'm like, oh, you going to? I got this train. Like I
Yeah.
got it. And I done pushed him off the train, and now he's chasing it. And I'm like, full steam ahead, choo choo. Like because I'm like, the train don't wait for nobody. So, just like everything else, again, it's like two sides of that coin. Like I got it on both sides, and it's like, okay, well, it was really good in the sense that whatever. But like you said, Trina, I didn't learn the balance of it. That was a part, that I missed. I didn't see, um, I didn't see those balancing moments, where she had to whatever. I missed those moments because she always wanted to be strong. Your oldest is a girl. She only had one son, so she got all these girls looking behind you, running. Like so. I didn't see those moments where she may have balanced the two. So I didn't quite get the balancing part.
Right.
So it was very helpful, but then for a minute, I ain't gonna say it really hurt me. It may have slowed me down a little bit, caused a few bumps in the road along the way. But yeah,
Yeah. I would have to say my upbringing was kind of similar in that way too, where I watched my mom really work a lot, and watching her, if she whatever job she was doing, whatever she was, with just um barely a high school education. I know that she has a high school education because I know she was in high school when she had me. So for her to, have to kind of battle with being that teenage parent and working hard. But I didn't even realize that she was a teenage parent until I was probably well into my teen years, and I'm like calculating how old I am. And
right,
she is, and I'm like, what the what? Like what was really happening there? But kind of, knowing that even though there could have been other options, there could have been, different things, different choices that she could have made, she would continue to work through all her obstacles. And that helped me with me making sure that I drove hard for education. My mom really pushed grades, and she was something serious about me making straight A's. And I'm talking about, I was that kid that come in the house with anything that looked like it was possibly shaped like a B or anything lower, like my life was over. So like I worked really hard to make sure that I made really good grades all of my life. But that gave me the drive to say, okay, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And to set goals. And that part of my upbringing, making education a valuable piece of, what was being presented to me. I remember one time, because I would never miss school either. I had perfect attendance. And this one time I called myself on the weekend, starting my journey to being sick so that I could miss school. And when I tell you that not only did she give me like all these assignments to the point where I was like, I will never play sick and try to stay home. She was like, oh, well, if you're homesick, then you're going to, I don't have the work that your teacher is going to give you. So, we didn't have email and
right,
phones and all that kind of stuff where you could just shoot the teacher a quick email and be like, hey, what are they missing today? Oh,
right.
go on my website and just practice this. My mom was like, oh, no, we have this dictionary. You're going to copy all the words in the dictionary. If you're homesick, while you're laying in bed, you can write the words from the dictionary on this page. And I was like, I can't even pretend to be sick because this woman is crazy. And she gonna make me do schoolwork anyway. So it gave me a drive. Like I had a student ask me, they were like, when you were a kid, did you like school? And I was like, yeah, I absolutely loved school. And they were like, you can't be telling the truth. And I was like, no, I did. Like during the summers, I would be like, I can't wait to go back to school. Possibly because my mom was probably going to give me work harder than the teachers gave me anyway. So, why not love the school, right? But it gave me that value for education, and it gave me the drive for that. At the same time, I think that, there were some other balances that probably could have been in there. My mom was hard on me and I was a good student, and she was still hard on me. And I remember one of my cousins coming to live with us for a while, and he was horrible. Like, he couldn't get an A to save his life. And I'll be like, now let me come in the house with this little raggedy D like he did, and you about to take my whole life, but we celebrating his little raggedy D over here. Like, is that what we doing? So for me in that moment, that was kind of hurtful, because I felt like, you're pushing me so hard, but you're not being this hard on him. And I think what I learned later was that if that D was the best that he could get, we have to celebrate his D.
Yeah.
Right.
Because while he was 2 years older than me, he was in the same grade as me. So that was kind of like, but for me at that time, I was like, oh, absolutely not. Like, this is preposterous. And he was like, this is what? So that was kind of the struggle, but it kind of made me who I am with that push, and gave me that drive that I even instilled in my kids, and why I didn't require everybody to make straight A's, and I kind of, took them as they were. It also gave me enough to know that I have to push them just as hard.
Right. Yeah, that's good. So ladies, in final words.
I would have to say that it's all in perspective as how we look at things. So your training, your upbringing, your background. I think that anybody can find, things to drop into each bucket, but your perspective on dwelling on how long the things that hurt you continue to impact what you're doing now is what you really have to consider. The hurt that you experienced in whatever area you experienced it in can't be your driving force. The healing and the helping has to be the driving force, and the hurt has to be an experience that you find a way to heal from, so that you can use it to benefit you. Don't let anything drive you that's negative.
Okay. Trina, any last words?
No, I agree with Shanetta's summary.
Absolutely. So yes, I totally agree with what you said, Shanetta. It is important that you notice the way the words are. Something can help you. It can start off helping. You can get hurt in the middle, and then there is always healing that is available. And sometimes it's important for you to seek that out. Don't just, like Shanetta said, let the hurt be the thing that drives you. Let the hurt drives you to be healed. Let the pain you feel be the thing that pushes you to know that I don't want to feel this. I need to be whole. I need to be healed. And there is healing in many ways, in many areas, many avenues. There's counseling. Sometimes you need healing within your own family. Sometimes friends and organizations can be healing. Sometimes you'll find healing in helping other people. And then, of course, sometimes the very thing that you think hurts you may be the thing that heals you. Maybe you left the church because somebody 10 years ago stepped on your toe one too many times. And you could go back today and let the love of God be the thing that heals your heart and helps you to move forward. So I think it's important to search for healing if you're hurting, because hurt is not a natural thing. That's why when you're hurting, that's why you feel it. It's not like just breathing. When you breathe, breathing is easy. Breathing is free. Breathing is pain, there's painless. But when you're hurting, you feel that pain. You feel that longing to not want to feel that way anymore. So when you have those feelings, seek healing. We're here every Thursday at 8 p.m. We give you our take on the situation. We share our experiences, but most importantly, we share our heart with you. So until next week, be safe, guys.